It's an honor, definitely. And as I look at the former recipients of the award, I really don't feel worthy, but they tell me I am, so I guess I have to believe them. I've got several family members here that I appreciate being here to help me celebrate this, and thank you for them. They told me I was supposed to tell a joke, and I didn't know if it was really appropriate to tell a joke, but I do have a quick one that I thought was pretty funny. This Irishman goes into a bar and orders 3 beers, and the bartender gives him the 3 beers, and he kind of drinks a little bit of each one, and you can't really figure out what's going on here. So finally the bartender asks him, why would you drink 3 beers one at a time? Why would you do one at a time? He said, well, I've got 2 brothers that are still back in Ireland, Shamus and Patrick, and they can't be here with me. So these are their beers, and we're all drinking together. Oh, okay, I get that. So he would come in all the time and do this. Eventually, one day he comes in and orders 2 beers. So the bartender gives him the 2 beers, and he's very concerned about this. So after a while, he can't stand it anymore, and he asks the guy, I'm sorry to hear something happened to one of your brothers. And he's very surprised. Something happened to one of my brothers? Well, he only ordered 2 beers. So I figured something must have happened. Oh, my brothers are fine. I quit drinking. So there's your laugh. As Dave said, and in my bio, I don't have a hockey resume like a lot of you people do. I didn't skate much as a kid. I played blue ball in high school and had fun with that. My first real involvement with hockey was as a volunteer when my kids started playing back in the 80s. I was a team manager and did that thing and learned a lot of the ropes there. And one thing I learned right away was that there were haves and have-nots. And Mr. Baki, sitting over there, knows what I'm talking about there in our local association. I was too young and ambitious to think I should just accept it and stay out of it, so I jumped into the middle of the pond. And Dave and I started making waves in our local association, which, as I said, was the New Hope Plymouth Athletic Association at that time. And one example of that was that they limited, or at least we felt, they limited the number of travel teams based on the amount of ice that they had. And we were pushing them to have more teams, and after a few tense meetings, the ice assigner got very frustrated with us and kind of pushed his book across the table and said, if you don't like the way I'm assigning the ice, do it yourself. Dave and I said, okay. So we started assigning the ice. I did this fairness chart that Dave talked about, Arno, and some of the teams really liked this. I can tell you right now, the A teams hated this because they were getting 6:45 a.m. practices and Friday and Saturday nights and things like that, and the A teams don't skate on Sunday mornings. The A teams don't skate on Saturday nights. Well, they do now. And if you don't like those hours, you can sell them to somebody. But I had this chart, and everybody had the same number of 8 hours, early hours, Wednesday nights. It was all fair. So kind of a love-hate thing. But oh well. I got some notes here. I printed this on one page at one time because I'm a one-page kind of a guy, but I couldn't read it. So I had to blow it up a little bit so I could see what I had here. We also started buying ice at other rinks, Columbia, Augsburg, Breck, Blake. Dave remembers all this, and odd hours. And that's just the way that it was. As it was mentioned, when they split Cooper and Armstrong, I got involved on the Cooper side, became the Baja rep and the gambling manager for Cooper. We had pull tabs before Armstrong did, by the way. And we talked about changing the bylaws, and I can't not say something about that. There was an issue that came up, I don't remember what it was, but at the time, the District 3 was set up where the associations and the officers on the District 3 board all had votes. And there was something that came up that negatively affected Armstrong, I think, was the one who was negatively affected by it. And Dave and I got unhappy about that, so it should be just the associations voting. Why are all these other people's voting? So I got that changed, and there's somebody here tonight that was very unhappy about that when I got that changed. But she grew to love me over time. So.
That would be me.
So I became the District 3 director in '92, when Art Sprague was responsible for that, he had decided to take another job in Minnesota hockey, and nobody wanted to be the new director. So Art had told us like 3 meetings that he wasn't gonna do this anymore. And nobody wanted to do it, so he finally said, okay, here's the deal. You think Minnesota hockey cares about District 3? It's just a district. If nobody wants to be the director, they'll send 3 of you to District 6, 3 of you to District 10, 3 of you to the Twin City District, and that'll be that. So we didn't want that to happen. So I reluctantly agreed to be the interim director. And Dave was the president, because we were losing both our director and our president. Russ Lewis was also leaving, and Dave agreed, Baki agreed to be the president. And I was the director for 11 years, so like interim, I guess, lasted longer than I thought. I do have to express some appreciation to some people who helped me. I had 2 primary mentors, Dave Martineau being one of them, and Dennis Green is my other one. Dennis is spending his winters in Arizona now, so he can't be, but I do want to thank Dennis and Dave for helping me as they did many times. And I had 2 sidekicks, Dave Baki, who we've talked about, and Mr. Corbett, who was sitting here, Jim Corbett. He managed the New Hope Arena for 42 years or something like that. And Jim helped me a lot. I appreciate all that he did to help me. And then I had an enabler. I was willing to be the director, but I didn't want to do all that dang work. So I had to have somebody to help me. And Diane agreed to be my helper, and she was John Harry's helper too for a few years. So I would not have been able to get here and do all the great things that we did if I didn't have Diane's help. So thank you, Diane, for all that you did to keep the wheels turning. During that time that I was district director for 11 years, we'd be in a meeting and something would come up involving District 3, and they said, well, we know who runs District 3. Obviously, there's many others in the room that have helped me. I don't want to try to list everybody that's assisted me during that time, but thanks for putting up with me and all my isms. Everybody has their vision of the golden years, and I have my vision of the golden years for Minnesota hockey. I feel very fortunate to have been involved during that time. And I made a quick list here that some of these people you remember, some of you maybe never heard of, but all of these people, Jerry Chernovic, Ted Brill, Elmer Walsh, Jerry Brown, Wes Barrett, Bill McDonald, John Erickson, Ted Fensky, Bob Backstrom, Jim Brecky, Bill Leslie, Bill Gable, Phil Graber, Bruce Kruger, and even Don Clark himself. All those people are gone now, and I was friends with all of those people. I got to know them, I got to hang out with them, I got to learn from them, and it was pretty cool, if you're me, that I had the time to do that. In fact, when Don Clark used to come to these meetings, I always tried to sit at his table because he had such cool stories to tell. So that was just neat to me, I guess. Well, my kids got old enough that they weren't in hockey anymore. I could have sailed off into the sunset and called it a day. But I decided to stay involved, and one nice thing about that is people could still say I made dumb decisions, which I probably still made some, but they couldn't say the only reason you made that decision is it benefited your own kid. So that was kind of a nice side effect. I remember one situation, go back to Dennis Green for a second. I don't remember if it was Armstrong and Hopkins, and I don't remember which way it went. There was somebody who lived one place, but they wanted to play the other place, and we figured out what they were doing and said, you can't do that anymore. You gotta play where you live. And this lady was going back and forth, and she finally got mad at me and said, if they can't play where they wanna play, they're gonna quit. And I said, well, it might be better for you to just go buy some basketball shoes, because it's cheaper, you can play wherever you want. And she got so mad, she called Dennis, who was the new Maroon vice president, and complained about me. So Dennis calls me, he's got to chew me out now. And so he said, did you really say that to her? And I said, yeah, I guess I did. Don't do that again. Okay, I'll never do that again. That was my do better from Dennis Green. I do have one apology to make. I've actually apologized for this many times in the past. Where I work, we've been trained to strive for continuous improvement. No matter what you did or how you did it, there's always a way to do it quicker, or cheaper, or better quality, or safer, or whatever. So I can't help it. Everything I look at, I'm trying to figure out how can we make this better. And even this, Derek is sitting here nodding his head. There's things that I go after, and people look, what's your problem? But it's been that way for 50 years. Leave it alone. So, again, my apologies for tormenting you with looking at things critically. Constantly. It's just the way I'm wired, as Dave said. But the point is, obviously, we need to keep looking at what we're doing, whether it's giving us the results we want, and how we can make it better. And I remember John Erickson, one of our meetings 20 years ago, we had a whole pile of rule changes we made. And after we passed all these rule changes, he kind of pronounced to the group, well, I think we made all the rule changes that we need to make. We shouldn't have to make any changes for a good long while. Anybody that's been involved with Minnesota hockey at the board level knows that we have rule changes at every one of our meetings practically, and it's going to go on forever. So it's just kind of the way it is. I do have a quick story. It's a Cooper story involving Erling Jerbseth, who was a hockey dad. He had 3 kids that played. It was actually Crystal, and then Northwest, and then Cooper. Keith was the oldest, and then Dan and Ross. All of these kids were good hockey players. All of them were captains on their hockey teams. And I remember when Dan, talking about a situation with Dan, was the middle one, and he had gone to their last high school game, and Cooper had lost the game. So we made our dents during the time. We beat Hopkins, we tied Edina. Those are big deals if you were a Cooper guy during that time. But Erling happened to walk by the locker room after their last game. They had been eliminated, and about half the kids in the room were crying, and he felt bad about that. So he didn't say anything to Dan about it right away, but about a week or 10 days later, it came up in conversation, and he said, I really feel bad that you guys took that loss so hard, and you guys were crying in the locker room. And Dan said, Dad, we weren't crying because we lost. We were crying because it was over. Just makes you think about what it's all about. I'll leave you with Elmer Wall's famous words of guidance. Stay on sides. Thank you.